Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the #1 professional wrestling radio show in Las Vegas. This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Filled with wrestling news, entertainment, and lots of Sin City surprises from inside the squared circle. Now, let's bring on the tag team, Joe DeFalco, and your host, Mark Hoke.
Good morning, Las Vegas. Hey, it's daylight savings time. How's everybody doing? I'm great. I am absolutely great. How are you guys doing in there?
I am quite magical. Thank you for having me here today.
Magical? Wow.
Yes, sir. A little tired though.
Yeah.
You picked up your pace, Mark. You were dragging a little earlier.
Well, yeah.
You just get excited about talking about AEW.
I just get excited to do radio, period. It's a blast.
Yeah,
and it's daylight savings.
Yeah, I'm happy about that. I'm happy with more sun.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Longer days, I like that better.
It's a benefit, but not in the immediate future.
Right. The first couple of weeks, a little rough adjusting, but then, it's a beautiful thing after that.
Yeah, something like that. Well, this is the Mark Hoke Show on KDWN 101.5 FM. KDWN, we are doing the best in pro wrestling news and entertainment. That gaggle of voices that you hear behind me, well, beside me, I don't know, what would we call this, catty-cornered?
There you go.
I'm not sure, but Brian Ronovich from Las Vegas wrestling scene. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, sir. How are you? I'm good.
Yeah. Well, you could answer my question first.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why I said that. I was like, wait, I just said the same thing to him. I'm good. I'm real good.
You hate when you do that.
I know. I was like, why did I say that?
It's always funny.
Thanks for pointing it out.
When I Uber sometimes, someone will say, "Have a nice day," and I'll be like, "Have a nice day." You do that. It's weird.
Yeah.
It doesn't work out. But we also have a new resident in the booth today. I'm sure we'll be seeing this gentleman in here quite a bit as long as we can keep dragging him out of bed.
Right.
Yeah, something like that. The David Difference from FSW. What's up, big dog?
Ladies and gentlemen, the David Difference. Oh, what a difference a Dave makes. It is an honor to be here representing the FSW fam. I'm glad to be here, man.
Good to have you, bro.
Thank you.
So tell everybody a little bit about what you do at Future Stars of Wrestling here in Las Vegas, which, of course, if you want to check it out, it's fswvegas.com.
Yeah, so I'm more involved with behind the scenes. Well, if you ask Joe DeFalco, he'll say I don't do much, but I think he'll say that about everybody. A lot of behind the scenes stuff, from sponsorships, sales, and merchandise. Obviously, designing and selling merchandise, and then you know how FSW is. It's like this big fam, so everybody kind of pitches in where needed. So sometimes we're running errands or, just stroking Joe's ego, whatever the situation calls for. The David Difference is there to make a difference.
Yeah. So when you go to an FSW card, like you'll be going to Mecca here towards the end of the month.
Yes, sir.
Make sure you stop by the merch stand and buy a lot of stuff from David.
Yes, sir. We got the fam merchandise. So at FSW, we don't consider, the people that come to the shows as fans. It's a family there. If you come down there, it's a family atmosphere, like just good times. So come on down and become a member of the family.
Yeah. Took good care of my daughter. Appreciate that.
Yes, definitely. Always.
Yeah, he's all right. It's all right.
Thank you, sir.
Well, guys, a wild week in pro wrestling. And actually, there's a couple of things over the past 10 days, as we had so many guests and things going on I didn't get to really touch on. So we have a lot of ground to cover today. And we're going to be going some new school, some old school, some character stuff, and man boob attacks.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
Believe it or not. Oh, it's the world of professional wrestling, everybody. Yikes. But the first thing that we really want to get into is a true Matt classic took place at AEW Revolution this last Sunday as Maxwell Jacob Friedman faced off with the American Dragon Bryan Danielson in a 60-minute Iron Man match, which actually went a little bit longer. MJF holds on to the title. Both men looked like they had just been I don't know, dragged through I'd say barbed wire, but they kind of did that on the card too. They were beat up.
Sure.
They were beat up. But an unbelievable match between these two guys. MJF survives it thanks to an oxygen tank shot to the melon and a tap out to Daniel's label lock just to finish it off. And MJF continues the reign of terror. But, boy, I'll tell you, he had a hematoma on his head, on his forehead that went down under his eye. And a few days later, he was a mess. But a worthwhile victory for Maxwell Jacob Friedman. And, I think, first just the reaction to the match that everybody had. And I'm sure at least you guys probably saw some of the reviews and things like that. Just many people, and I even heard Brian Last, who, of course, works with Jim Cornette on his podcast, and they hate AEW. Can't stand them. Said that was probably the best Iron Man match he's ever seen. And that's saying something from Brian Last to say that. Guys, just first the impact of this match, because, WWE was stealing the spotlight, and now all of a sudden MJF took it right back.
Well, yeah, so I think a match like this, this is the type of match that I look forward to, I've watched some of the clips. I'm going to go back and watch it today because you got me pumped on this one. But it was a brutal match. I think obviously solidified MJF, and just a huge star. And even if you're not a wrestling fan, this is one of those matches that you show non-wrestling fans, and it builds their interest,
Yeah, and a match like this, too, and we touched on it last week with Joe, was that that MJF kind of needs to have a match like this. Like the all-time greats have matches that you can look back on and go, oh, remember, especially like HBK. If you look at him, talk about Iron Man matches, you can go back to the ladder match at Mania 10. You can go back to his Iron Man match with Bret Hart. You can talk his Undertaker matches. So you want to have a resume like that as you're building your legacy, and I think this is one for MJF that has to top the list, I would think, at this point.
Yeah, and it's funny because people forgot about the dog collar match with CM Punk. That was an absolutely incredible match, too. And, this guy just keeps going out and having great match after great match, and it's hard to believe that he's in his mid-20s. He handles himself like a 20-year veteran of the ring. In every way, too. Whether he's doing a promo, an interview, he does it old school. He kayfabes everything up. It's pretty neat to see that there's going to be a great superstar for a long time in this industry with him doing what he's doing. They were talking about this being the best Iron Man match of all time. I know you guys have been watching wrestling forever. What are some of your favorite Iron Man matches that you can think of off the top of your head?
Where do we begin? You talk about Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. Matt classics. And I was just recently watching a review show of that, and some people said it wasn't all that. Where they had no finishes for 60 minutes. I can imagine being in the crowd. That may weigh on you. But as far as what they were doing, the job that they set out to do, I think they accomplished that. And if you really understand the business, then you would love that match.
Yeah, oh yeah, without a doubt. I think that even not just a straight Iron Man match. Even if you talk if you go way back, the Sting and Ric Flair, even though it wasn't really 60 minutes, the Clash of Champions.
Yeah, the 45-minute draw,
yeah. There have been some real good 1-hour matches, even if they aren't. The Iron Man match for me, what I think set this one apart is that it was a true Iron Man match. It wasn't 30 minutes. It wasn't watered down. It was the main event of the big show. There was plenty of build up to it. You were ready to watch those guys for an hour. Definitely. And that to me was what made this special and why it stood out.
Yeah, and there's some other ones that I remember, like the Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle one.
Oh yeah,
that was an absolute classic. Brett and Owen, remember they did one back at
classic.
Yeah, they did that one. I'm just looking down the list of someone else. We had even though it was 30 minutes, the Bayley Sasha Banks one in NXT. That was
good. That was good.
That was amazing. What else do we have? I'm just going down the list here.
Think about Unguided. They went toe-to-toe for
Matt and Damian Drake. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
That was an
hearing
excellent
about that match.
That was the first match that popped into my head, actually,
Okay.
when he said that. So funny.
Yeah,
you know?
we got to represent.
Yeah, for sure. That was a great match, actually, also.
I think the builds to, the Iron Man matches, there's a lot that goes into it. Just everybody can't get out there and, let's do 60 minutes. From a story perspective, also physically, and I think that, any build-up to an Iron Man match is a magical thing,
Oh, yeah, because you have to want to invest in a 60 minutes.
Right.
You're in for an hour regardless. So the hype behind it, to your point, is critical to it, without a doubt. Not just having the guys that can work it, because MJF and Danielson are their styles are perfect for an Iron Man match. So you knew you were going to get that, but the proper build to it just made it even better.
Yeah, and the tricky to me that I've never wrestled, but it would seem to me the tricky part about planning out a match like that is doing enough that you're pacing yourself and you're not going to blow up 15, 20 minutes in, and then you're also doing enough to keep the fans interested without blowing them up too. Because if you try to do too much, it's overwhelming, and we see that on cards all the time where you'll have a 3 or 4 really good matches in a row that just are explosive and exciting, and then you'll get to that one where everybody's just like, oh, I need a break,
right?
So you have to be really careful telling that story as you went along. And the one thing I really loved was the first 2 falls for MJF were hilarious. It was a perfect heel, gave him a low blow, got DQ'd, went down 2-0, and then pinned him twice off the low blow.
Right.
I mean, how smart is doing something like that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, because the thing is that MJF has to always be careful of is he doesn't want to do anything that's going to get him cheered. And so, any win he gets, not every win, but some, especially against someone like Danielson, that pinfalls have to come off of a cheat to me, or some sort of hijinks to allow him to get the win, because that's what's going to keep the heat there. If he wins spectacularly, you run the risk of getting cheered, and that's the last thing he wants.
Yeah, and MJF is certainly teetering on the edge of that.
He is. He's almost getting too cool to boo.
Yeah, for sure. So a pretty wild main event at AEW Revolution, and there were some other matches on there too. Just a few, but we will get into this. I tell you what, let's take our first break. I think it's a good place to pause our little broadcast here.
Sounds good.
So how about we do that? We will come back to the Mark Hoke Show on KDWN 101.5 FM. Just want to remind everybody too, by the way, if you're driving around in Las Vegas right now and you need some breakfast. Now, I got up a little early this morning, and did not go to Unique Eats, heavily regretting it. Because I want a good breakfast, a home-cooked breakfast, something that I'm going to really enjoy. Award-winning omelets, pizzas, pastas, you name it. They've got it. Smoothie bar, vegetarian options, too. And they do catering. Celebrity chef Dominic Tedesco, internationally renowned celebrity chef and pizza chef. Just unreal. And they've got beer and wine over there, too. And today's Jazz Day, by the way, guys.
Oh, wow. Yeah?
It's Jazz Day, 11 o'clock. You get Jazz Singer over there, too.
That's an MJF level segue, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It really is.
So make sure, guys, you get over to Unique Eats today and say hi to Dominic and the team over there. They're absolutely awesome. 3100 South Durango, Suite 100, 3100 South Durango, Suite 100. You can check out the website at uniqueeatslv.com. That's uniqueeatslv.com. Or give them a call, 702-992-3038. That's 992-3038. Go have a great meal today, guys. Check it out at Unique Eats. All right, we come back. The rest of AEW Revolution. The good, the bad, the but a lot of good. Pretty good card this week. So stick around for more. We're going to talk about AEW Revolution and so much more in the world of pro wrestling when we return on the Mark Hoke Show. We'll be right back.
.101.5 FM KDWN.
This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Here again, your host, Mark Hoke.
And we are back on the Mark Hoke Show here on KDWN 101.5 FM, Talk of Las Vegas. And by the way, don't forget, if you just happen to be out of the area and you can't listen to us on the your little radio or whatever you got, hey, the Audacy app. It's got thousands, not just this show. Of course, you need to listen to every episode of the Mark Hoke Show. They're all up there. That's very important. But once you're done, then you can listen to any other great shows here on KDWN or, pretty much around the world. There's a ton of terrific programming on there. So download that Audacy app, AUDACY. And they're actually doing a little contest right now, too. If you every hour you log, you can, win a trip to or some tickets to go see Mr. Dunham down on the Strip.
Jeff Dunham.
Yeah. Ooh. So just put your Audacy app on. In fact, all you got to do, go hit the Mark Hoke Show. And, Brian, you can do this too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
Just
definitely.
Turn on the Mark Hoke Show.
I already did.
Listen, play all the episodes.
Oh, yeah.
And every hour you listen to the Mark Hoke Show, you get an entry for the Jeff Dunham concert.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go.
Win-win.
Yeah, it's huge. So make sure you do that. Audacy app, AUDACY. All right, so continuing on with AEW Revolution, some pretty interesting matches on the card. We did have a title change with Wardlow knocking off Samoa Joe. He actually submitted Joe out, put him in a sleeper to say goodbye to Samoa Joe and win back the TNT title, which he ended up losing.
Dropping right after, yeah.
He lost on Dynamite.
And that was was there any kind of feud behind the Falls Count Anywhere match, or did they just make it a Falls Count Anywhere match?
Do you want to know why they did that?
Is that the Bay Area bipping of the title?
Yeah.
Does that play in?
No. Someone stole all of Wardlow's gear.
Right.
And the TNT, yeah. So Wardlow had no gear to wear. So they made it a Falls Count Anywhere match because he had to wear his street clothes for the match.
Yeah, that is different. In the Bay Area, they call that bipping.
Oh, gotcha, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm not hip. I'm not hip.
Well, it's a Bay thing. So, a lot of cars getting broken into.
That's what I heard.
He had the rental car. He got his title belt stolen, all his gear, and so they had to call an audible on that.
Was he dropping the belt regardless?
Yes.
Was there any? Okay.
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah, they apparently had the Powerhouse Hobbs title change planned for a while, but everything that kind of happened in between with Joe getting the belt and Darby Allin getting the belt and everything, because apparently Wardlow had been hurt.
Right.
So they had to take the belt off him for a while. But yeah. Well, thank you, David Difference.
I've never heard it, and I'll hear it tomorrow. I've never heard that before, but I'll hear it like 3 times in 2 weeks.
Yeah, probably. But right before that was a match that we talked about wiping everybody out. Was the Hangman Adam Page and John Moxley Texas Death Match. Now, if you didn't see this, I'm going to warn you. This was kind of in near GCW territory.
Wow.
On this match.
Did they use light tubes?
No light tubes.
Okay, good.
Barbed wire, bricks, thick chains, like toe chains.
Right. Oh, wow.
It was pretty rough. And, I don't mind a match like that. You're going to have those. It's a Texas death match. But they kind of did some things in there that bothered me a little bit. Like David, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
If you're going to hurt somebody, are you going to wrap barbed wire around your torso and then do a moonsault on top of them to hurt them? Or do you think that could have detrimental effects on your own body?
Yeah, it depends on your level of sanity, right? So I think a lot of people use that strategy thinking, but you get pumped up, right? And you're not thinking straight when you're going into a match like that. And, the adrenaline's pumping and, you don't make the wisest decision. I mean, to get in a match like that, you're not making the wisest decisions in your life, So, to each their own.
Yeah, it doesn't seem. It always reminds me of wrapping the chain around your hand and then hitting somebody with it. Like you're sure to break your hand.
Right. Yeah.
likely.
Throw
Yeah,
caution to the wind, man.
Exactly.
Very true. Of course, they were Hangman Page got his hand smashed with bricks. Mox kind of did a stomp onto bricks with it. Mox also brought a fork along when Abdul the Butcher.
Oh wow.
Oh, and it was bad too. It wasn't just it wasn't just a little poke. Repeated pokes and then kind of dragged it through. Oh man, it was rough. So I'm going to warn you, if you haven't seen it and you want to watch it, just be ready.
Yeah,
and it ended up Hangman choked him out as he hung him with a chain that, like a toe chain that Mox brought into the ring. So,
ouch.
So Page did get the win.
Well, okay, good win.
But after it was over, Wardlow and Samoa Joe had to go on, and you can imagine what the crowd was like.
Right,
I bet.
Drained them, yeah.
Yeah, it was a little rough. But earlier in the night, one other match that I thought was really good: House of Black taking on the Elite. Of course, House of Black is Malakai Black, Brody King, Buddy Matthews with Julia Hart, and the Elite, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks, who brought the whole gang along, Brandon Cutler and Michael Nakazawa. So there's like 11 people out here for this match. But a pretty wild match, and I thought everybody showed up very well. The Young Bucks looked small. They really did, and I think that was kind of an issue in that they just didn't seem like, their teamwork and their coordination would overcome, but still, it was they didn't look like pro wrestlers in there. It looked like they were a couple of teenagers stuck in with the big boys. You know what I mean? But the House of Black ends up winning that match, so they are now the Trios champions. And I like this. I like those three guys together. Malakai Black and Kenny Omega were fantastic in the ring, and Brody King just looked awesome. And Buddy Matthews looked good too. I mean, just a really good combination of wrestlers with it, and the entrance was amazing. So if you haven't seen that, it's pretty cool too. But I know Brian, you were talking a little bit about those guys and some thoughts.
I really like Brody King. He's the guy I've been watching for a long time from his time at SoCal. And I'm glad to see him really getting an opportunity, and with somebody like Malakai Black. He's one of those guys, that when AEW signed him, he wasn't used right in WWE, and then he seemed to have some issues. But that kind of seems to be what happens with AEW. Every time someone has a problem, AEW comes around and starts giving him a little more love. But I've wanted to see what Black can do ever since he left NXT, because when he went up to WWE, it wasn't a whole lot. So having a title, having a major faction, I'm certainly interested in seeing what they do with this from here. Do you think, Mark, there's a chance they do Malakai Black and Kenny Omega one-on-one?
I would love to see that. I mean, when those two were in the ring together, unreal. Absolutely unreal. And it's about time Malakai Black got a real shot as singles. When he came in, they were pushing him pretty hard, and then he kind of stalled out. They couldn't quite figure out what to do with him and the Cody Rhodes thing, and but then now I think once they've kind of got a reset here, there's a chance to really do something fantastic with them. And those two guys, I'm telling you, from the little bit of time that they got one-on-one in there, they're going to light it up. Absolutely light it up. So
I think one of the mistakes that they've made is when they've signed some of these guys, instead of, even though they're coming from WWE, you still got to let them cook a little bit. And I think they've taken some of them and pushed them right into big matches. So you skip over 5 or 6 months, maybe, or less of, the fans really getting into them being in their buildings. And so when you push them right into this big match, it's like, okay, well, we've already seen this now, and we had no build. And I think that's hurt guys like Malakai Black and Miro and
Adam Cole.
I can name Adam Cole. We could name others. That's really where I think that the mistake has been with some of these guys.
What do you think about that, David?
Well, I think that there's something beautiful about the build, and like he said, like coming over from WWE, especially. I mean, they're adapting to a new style, a new crowd. And obviously they got more free reign in AEW. So, I think it does take a while to build that up,
it does.
and get the crowd behind it.
Yep.
Versus just saying, WWE guy, let's push them to the moon. Make us fall back in love with them,
right?
And see, because a lot of times WWE underutilized them. So, let's give us the build of what they're really about,
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's always been tough because most of the people that have left WWE to come over to AEW kind of got put up on the top of the toy shelf, like in Toy Story.
Right, yes.
Right. And so their momentum got slowed, and there's that excitement for people that were fans of these people that knew they weren't getting used right. And so you're like, yeah, they're here. But then you also have to realize, I think, that you can't, if you use them too fast, you're gonna burn them out.
Exactly. Less is more. I mean, that's really. I mean, the only Bryan Danielson is really arguably the only one that came over right from WWE that you could push right to the top,
right? And
the fans wouldn't be like, "Oh, we're sick of him now," because he's a top guy. But a lot of these guys that were coming in weren't working at the top of the card. But you're trying to push them to the top when they weren't even there in WWE. They might have been big talents that people that you thought have tons of potential, but they hadn't been at the top of the card yet. Yet you try to throw them on the top. It's a totally different thing when you go to AEW. I think you want to talk about historically, like Bret Hart. I think is a great example.
Great example
because he goes to WCW. He had to be rebuilt. It's a different thing. I mean, it's not the same. And I think that's something that gets missed. You think just because it's on TV all the time, it's going to be the same, and it's not.
I don't think that worked out for Bret Hart. I remember that being garbage.
That was terrible.
Garbage. Like you were excited, you wanted to see him show up there, and when he did, it was like,
yeah. And then I mean, they started with that terrible him being the referee, blew up the Sting Hulk match that they built for a year and a half,
right?
And that was really just the worst way to start for somebody like him. It was, and it just went south.
Yes, it did. And and two people that I think that have been kind of stuck in that same limbo, wrestled on AEW Revolution was Saraya and Ruby Soho, who I think both ran into that too. And I mean, Saraya, the pressure that was on her, she struggled a little bit. She had a really tough time with her promos early. Was trying to figure out who she was in there, and then all of a sudden she's getting everybody's like, this isn't the Page we remember.
Right.
And Ruby Soho, when she did her promo, she did the heel turn at Revolution. She actually mentioned in the promo on Dynamite that she, every time she turned around, she was getting booed. And I was at the match with Chris Statlander that was on, I can't remember if it was Dynamite or Rampage, which one. But Statlander got cheered like crazy and Soho got booed out of the building. And they used that, but it was just one of those things where I think that they kind of shoved some of those people in a little too quickly, and it hurt them very badly. So,
and I think Ruby Soho is a perfect example. I mean, she wasn't really working the top of the card in WWE. It's the same kind of thing. And against Chris Statlander though, like you're not going to get many cheers when you wrestle her anyway. I mean, she's so over in the first place, so that's a tough spot regardless. But to me, Ruby Soho makes way more sense as a heel.
Yeah, I agree.
And her and Saraya, I think that those three that's a nice little group there. We'll see what they can do with that.
Yeah, I don't know if I like the insider outsider whole thing.
I don't like the name or anything, but I think those three as a faction that could be decent.
Yeah, I think they're going to be all right. So, and apparently AEW made some decent money on this pay-per-view. By the way, they're waiting for the final numbers to come in. Meltzer is reporting 120 to 129,000. Tony Khan is saying it looks like it's about 130 to 140,000. So pretty good numbers for AEW Revolution. So the boys make some money.
Good.
And just for fun, and you know what they're going to be spending it on, guys? Have you heard this?
What's that?
A new TV show for AEW.
That's what they needed.
I did hear about this.
So apparently they are trying to finish a deal out with Warner Brothers Discovery to add a new show to their broadcasting network. Let's see what they're saying. Adrian Zarian of the Matman podcast reported Tony Khan, Warner Brothers Discovery are in the process of finalizing a deal to air an extra-hour TV, which they are saying will probably be called AEW Collision, and expecting an announcement in the next month or so. So you've got another possible new show for AEW. Good idea, bad idea. David, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I heard about Collision. I heard they trademarked the name and they're gearing up for something. To me, I think a lot of times you're going to oversaturate the market. Yeah. But if you look at how much talent they got, and like we said, they bring over WWE guys and they got to push them to the top. It also gives them an opportunity to work their way through these different avenues. But if you're asking me, like how much, like give me something different, like give me a behind the scenes show, something different, some different content.
Which they're doing. They are doing that behind the scenes show. They announced that.
Oh, okay. So something like that, but I'm saying like sometimes it just becomes repetitive, and like if you really want to engage, your fans, you got to give them something fresh, something new, and oversaturate. We saw how that happened. With WWE, especially going to 3 hours on Raw, it was like it was just a different feel. It was like too much.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going to put this on the wrestling calendar. That's the interesting part, because the ratings for Rampage. I mean, for a Friday night at 10 o'clock, those numbers are good, but and everybody kind of busts people's chops about it. But for Friday night at 10, getting 500,000 viewers is solid.
Yeah, that's a terrible night too. Friday night's not a great night.
I mean the plan was hopefully you get the flow over from SmackDown at the end, but but that's not that was never realistic. So I don't know where you put that show on, guys.
You know what I miss, and like I've been a fan since I was a youngin. It was my first love, but Saturday morning, waking up,
there you go,
wrestling. Like we don't have that. I mean, obviously you can watch anything, anytime, because of YouTube and the network and everything, but there was something about that Saturday morning I was always looking forward
Superstars,
to.
I think was the
waking
show,
up, and it was like mainly jobber matches. You may have one good one, but the promos, everything that was in there, like I look forward to that every weekend. So I don't think there's a set Saturday. They do pay-per-views now, but that wake up and watch something.
And that show for WWF was such a great way to build their pay-per-views, because especially that show would come on the date because the pay-per-view would be on a Sunday. So that show would be, you'd see whoever was going to be really featured in the pay-per-view, pushing it in like that. Even though it's wrestling, it's like, you don't want to just start creating, here's another wrestling show from AEW. That's where I think, like what you were talking about.
Got to be a hook.
That's where I think the challenge comes for them. It could just, like, I don't think you add a show because you have too many wrestlers. I think, in the beginning stage, having 2 is fine, but once you get to like 4 and 5, I don't think that's necessarily the answer.
Yeah, I would. What I'd really like to see them do, I think would be fun, is now they're going to start doing house shows. What if you took some of the matches from the house shows, taped them, and put them on that show? And then you generate some interest for the house shows, and you could then, if you want to do, say you want to do a title change at a house show, you'll be able to televise it. I think that would be an interesting way to go. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I think like the show they're doing now on YouTube with the Dark. I mean, isn't that essentially what I think it would just be more of that, unless they gave it a house show feel. I remember the house show was well underproduced, everything I went to, but there was a different feel. So if they came with that feel, I'm all for it. But if it's just it's a house show, but it's televised,
See, and I think they've hurt themselves with AEW Dark too, because at first it was really cool. You'd see all the posts and shares, I'm on AEW Dark, but then you start seeing everybody on AEW Dark, especially like the up and coming talent. You're like, I've even said this to people, like, does it mean what it did, whenever it first started? Because when everybody gets a spot on there, it doesn't mean as much as it would if not as many people did.
Definitely. I think to the fans, right? But like as the wrestlers, obviously to be in there and just be in that, like it's a learning environment,
for
right?
Sure,
so you're in there, you're networking, you're meeting people, you're seeing how things run differently. So it's good to advance your career.
Of course.
From a fan standpoint, it's like, I'm going to watch my guys on AEW, then they get squashed and, and barely get an introduction. But I think that's, what it's all about there.
Yeah.
And so I think it's good for the career. It's definitely good seeing FSW guys popping
definitely.
up on.
It's definitely not bad. I just think that, it's an important thing. I don't know if I don't think it's the step it should be. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
if it weren't a lot of people being on it, I think it would be maybe even be a bigger thing.
Right, or give them an opportunity to, like, you already know what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like Lights, Camera, Faction about to, get some titles out of this appearance. But that would be interesting. Like, as a fan,
sure.
like we're so everything. We know everything. You got the dirt sheets. You got, internet. Like, we want to be surprised, too, So show us something that we don't expect, and we'll tune in more.
Oh, without a doubt.
No doubt about it. So,
AEW, for me, I'd like to see him focus more on developing the younger talent, and just bringing guys in from indies isn't really developing young talent. I imagine they have some sort of academy or school planned at some point, I would think, but that's really where I'd like to see AEW invest, because that's what I think is going to be the thing for their future, is that infrastructure build.
There you go. All right, well, guys, we got to take it to the break, and of course, when we come back, we've got more great wrestling news and entertainment. We've got all sorts of fun stuff going on in WWE, and an interesting interview that we had this week with Edge that I want to talk to you guys about, that I found quite fascinating, about how you build your character, what's important in the world of pro wrestling. So stick around, everybody. We've got a lot more of the David Difference and Brian Ronovich from Las Vegas WrestlingScene.com. Make sure you check that great website out for everything going on in Las Vegas. We will be right back here on the Mark Hoke Show on KDWN. Stick around. Tired of the same boring food when you're out for breakfast or lunch? I'm Mark Hoke, and I have an idea for a different place to go with unique food you're sure to enjoy, and that's Unique Eats. Take some time out of your busy day and stop on in to Unique Eats, featuring celebrity chef Dominic Tedesco and his friendly staff. Whether it's a great start to your day with one of Unique Eats' amazing omelets, or lunch with his incredible sandwiches, pasta, and award-winning pizzas, you'll be in for a fantastic dining experience that won't break the bank. Unique Eats also features a smoothie bar and full vegetarian menu as well. Plus, if you need catering, you can count on Unique Eats no matter what the occasion. So what are you waiting for? Get on over to Unique Eats at 3100 South Durango, Suite 100, open daily until 3 p.m. Call them at 702-992-3038 or visit UniqueEatsLV.com for their full menu and catering info. Break out of the same old routine and have a great meal at Unique Eats today.
101.5 FM KDWN.
You're listening to the #1 professional wrestling radio show in Vegas, The Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Now, here again is Mark Hoke.
Yeah, that's me. You guys are so lucky to have me on a Sunday morning. It's just amazing. I mean, you get a little church service here on KDWN, and then pro wrestling with me and the gang. Can't beat that. It's pretty awesome, right, Brian?
Yes, sir, it is.
Brian
Always
Ronovich.
great.
Yeah, Brian Ronovich from LasVegasWrestlingScene.com, and the David Difference from FSW, Future Stars of Wrestling here in Las Vegas.
Yes, sir. The best thing going
It
in
is.
this city. Ask Brian. He'll tell you. It's #1.
It is. It really is.
Yep.
You gotta go with that, Dave.
I certainly enjoy my time at FSW, too. It's
Yeah,
a blast. Great
yeah.
cards, great talent. Definitely want to check it out. Go to FSWVegas.com. You can also learn to be a wrestler there, too, or
Great
referee.
school. Great school. Terrific coaches.
Yeah, production, everything, like the business end, like we do it all there. If you want to learn, come on down. Let's get it. And speaking of FSW, where's Joe DeFalco?
I don't know.
Yeah, seriously,
I
Joe.
sent him his little link to get on our clean feed system, but he
didn't set his clock for it, apparently.
I guess not. It's not the first time.
Oh, man.
But two other little things I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on before we head into the second hour. First, there was a controversy on Dynamite last week, and I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but when Powerhouse Hobbs had climbed the ladder to get that amazing golden donut, 3 of the referees held the ladder in place for him. Now, it's not the first time that I've seen referees holding ladders in a ladder match.
Right.
But, boy, they took some heat for that. Go get another ladder. Why can't Hobbs climb a ladder? He should be able to balance himself. Blah, da, da, da. Your thoughts, guys, on the referees getting involved in a situation like that? Obviously you're protecting the performer, but at the same time, was it a good look?
Well,
not really. Go fire away.
Yeah. I think it depends on your. Obviously, it's not a good look, right? We want everything, like, as much as we want to believe, right? So you look at something like that, it's not a good look business wise, or if you're in the business, or if you're like a hardcore fan. But understanding it's live production, you know, you got to do what you got to do, you know, for the sake of TV half the time and safety, you know. So, I mean, what do we want? You know?
Yeah, I think you said it perfect. I mean, that's the last. You really don't want to see. I mean, maybe one referee and he or she can kind of make it look good, but when you have three that are holding it for the man to win,
right.
You know, that to me is like if it was a boxing match, referee picking up the guy that got knocked down. You know, like to me, it's just.
Right, the fix is in.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I get it. I mean, obviously, we understand why,
I don't want to see
it's
anyone get
done,
hurt,
but
course.
at the same time, it's like, yeah.
There has to be another way to do it.
Right.
I guess is the way.
Yeah, call a different spot or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think everybody just kind of looked at it and said, match is ending. Hobbs is a big dude. The ladder's not steady. What do we do? And decided on the side of protecting Hobbs from having the ladder collapse or something like that. I mean, and there were already a couple of really rough bumps in that match as was. So I guess I didn't blame him, but God, it just looked like a swarm of stripes at the bottom of the ladder.
Well, for you guys, like from a production standpoint, though, can't you do something with the camera to where? I mean, obviously you can see it live, but isn't there a way to do something to where it's not so obvious?
Yeah, I think on
Isn't
production
there some trickery there you can do.
Production end, I think it's just being on point. A lot of times stuff happen on the fly, and everybody, you know, you got to switch gears quickly. But you said controversy. Who is out there ranting and raving about this?
Oh, the entire just the entire planet.
Sure, Jim Cornette had plenty to say.
I've been in the Dave cave for a little bit, so I didn't hear about this one.
Yeah, it got a little crazy. The other one that happened was at Revolution with MJF, and I'm sure you guys probably saw this too. That early in the match, MJF was in the stands and was headed back. Took a drink from a woman and threw it on her kid.
Yes.
Turned out that was tequila.
Nice.
So mom was getting a little schnookered at the AEW event, and can't only imagine what level of tequila had already been consumed. But apparently, some of the tequila caught the kid in the eye, and this was not planned. They took him backstage, and Amanda Huber was all over him, helping him out. But good heel move. Over the line?
I'll tell you this.
We got about a minute, by the way.
Okay, for me as a heel, yes, I love this kind of stuff. And if I was that kid, I would love to take some tequila in the face and get me involved in the show. I'm good with it. Like, you know, let that roll off your back, man.
Yeah, I would think so too. I mean, it's definitely a good heel move. I think he just needs to. You just got to be careful because you never know how anybody's going to respond to it. You know, but as far as a heel spot. He seems to find him every time when he flicked off the kid, a year ago? So.
Yeah.
Yes,
Tony told him he was a bad boy, and then they gave the kid some merch and got him a few more tickets. And
I'd have been fine with that.
Yeah. So, all right. Hey, we've got hour number 2 coming up, guys. We're never done in here. It's awesome. The Mark Hoke Show, best in pro wrestling news and entertainment. If you would like to follow the show, we would certainly appreciate it at Mark Hoke Show. Facebook, The Mark Hoke Show. MarkHokeShow.com with our new Patreon program we're setting up. So sign up for that. You help the show out, and we've got some cool stuff going in there. I'll have some great announcements on the website, probably on Tuesday or Wednesday, it looks like. And, of course, YouTube, we've got those videos up at the Mark Hoke Show as well. So a lot going on. And, by the way, don't forget, Bobby Fulton from the Fantastics is on next week. That's going to be awesome. So stick around, guys. We got another hour of the Mark Hoke Show coming up. We'll be right back. Want more of The Mark Hoke Show? Follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show, like us on Facebook at The Mark Hoke Show, and visit markhokeshow.com to keep up with everything happening with the show. And remember to check out all of our archive shows on YouTube at The Mark Hoke Show and download our podcasts at markhokeshow.podbean.com and all your favorite podcast outlets. So join The Mark Hoke Show family today, and thanks for listening.